The Lakers today also went out and moved Thomas Bryant for Devon Reed and 3 second-round picks. So they basically get back the costs that they spent to acquire Rui Hachimura. They moved Patrick Beverly for Mo Bamba as well. I believe that they also sent a second-round pick to Orlando to be able to do that. All told, they acquire Mo Bamba, Rui Hachimura, D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley, and Davon Reed, as well as I think ended up plus 2 second-round picks minus 1 first-round pick. Overall, this is definitely a better Lakers team now, right?
Oh, definitely. I think without question, This team is much better.
So what are your thoughts? I'll just give you the floor very briefly. I don't know that I need to talk about it a ton more. What were your thoughts on the D'Angelo Russell for Russell Westbrook along with Mike Conley maneuver?
Frankly, I was kind of surprised that the Lakers were given this option. Like, I don't know if I would have, like, for Utah. I do think some people were maybe expecting probably more back for Vanderbilt and Beasley than should have been. Like, I don't think that either guy was going to net a first round pick on their own, based on like any reporting that had been released. But just from the Lakers front, like, I think part of what's interesting, like, not that I think D'Lo was like guaranteed to work in Minnesota, but he'd really started to find something over the last month or two, moving off the ball more. He's found his shot in a way that had, like we've talked about this. He found his shot in a way that just hasn't been there since that All-Star season in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge. Like, playing alongside LeBron, like, again, a guy who I think combo guards are meant to thrive off LeBron James. Like, you have guys who can shoot, who can really get things going. Like, yes, they can bring the ball up, but okay, then they can move off the ball. And I think with what D'Lo was finding over this last month, that excites me about what that can look like. With the Lakers.
Well, let's stop there because I think that's a really, really important point. Russell's best years and best moments in the NBA have come when he shares the load as an initiator, right? Mm-hmm. His 2019 season where he made the All-Star game, that came sharing the offensive initiation load with Spencer Dinwiddie, right? As we've talked about on the show, and as you brought up, at length when we broke down the Timberwolves 2 weeks ago, I guess that was, the Timberwolves have really used Kyle Anderson to initiate a lot of their actions over the course of the last month. Plus, Anthony Edwards is taking on a more substantial part of the load, which has freed up D'Angelo Russell to just be able to go play, right? Like, when D'Angelo can just go play and has freedom and like doesn't have to worry about initiating and like making plays for everyone, that's where his creativity, I think, really thrives. Like, he's a really creative passer in those moments. It's more when like he has to figure out, okay, I have to like set the table for this guy. I have to get this guy the stuff in the right spots. Like, with LeBron, he doesn't have to worry about any of that. He can just go play. And I think that's really smart.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot for him as a fit move forward. Like, obviously the defensive issues are going to exist, but
we're going to talk about that.
Yeah. But from an offensive standpoint, I really like that. And they needed the juice just to get better with that. As for the Jazz fit too, like, I really liked trading for Vando and Beasley together, because they have obviously synergy from playing in Utah, but also playing in Minnesota with their 2-man game. So I think in some ways, like, you automatically bring that in. And I like that. I think Vando gives him a lot of interesting stuff that he can do defensively, primarily, guarding guys on the ball. I think part of, and this is just my assumption, but I think part of trading Thomas Bryant was because they weren't going to be able to re-sign him this summer, or weren't super interested in re-signing him just for what the dollar might end up costing. But mainly, I think you open up more minutes for Jared Vanderbilt to play. And I think the idea too, like, this to me is a lot about getting them to become much more of a defensive focused team that can get out in transition, while also, of course, shoring some things up in the half court. And I think that's perfect for what Vando brings. Even when he's playing alongside, like, I think lineups with him and AD together, that's going to be wonky at times. But I think you just open up some more stuff to actually make that more possible. So I like that. I like adding all three guys. Again, Malik Beasley is like a system breaking bad defender at times, but having AD and Jared Vanderbilt on there together helps. So yeah,
So I have numbers on that, by the way.
yeah,
So Malik Beasley and D'Angelo Russell, they played together in the 2021 and 2022 NBA seasons. They played more than 1,200 minutes together for the Minnesota Timberwolves. What do you think Minnesota's defensive rating was when they played together in those 1,200 minutes?
I'm sure it was awful. I have no
It was
idea on a guess, but I'm sure it was awful.
116.1
Yeah,
per play-by-play stats, which would have been third worst in 2021 and second worst in 2022.
yeah, that
Like
sounds about right.
it was really, really bad. Like there's a lot of work to be done covering up for that if they're going to play those two together in the starting lineup. Like you can't play those two and Rui in the starting lineup, which is like some of the speculation I've seen. That is a nightmare waiting to happen. And Darvin Ham has not been good enough managing their rotations. And that's another thing we're going to talk about momentarily here.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if they stop starting Rui, because I would start Vanderbilt over Rui. I know that some people
Agree.
might disagree with that. Like, yes, you can theoretically get Rui shooting, but I just think Vando's a way better player right now.
Not even
I'll
close.
be interested to see what they do, but um, yeah, they have. I think to me, it's like they have a lot more options. I still don't think that I would consider them a title contender. Um, like I think that they're a playoff team now, which is an
Yep.
upgrade, and gives them a puncher's chance. But yeah, I'm very I'm interested to see how it plays out, but still pretty skeptical about what this is going to look like.
Yeah, so I agree with you that I don't think they're really a contender for a title right now, but I'll get into the reason why after we kind of talk a little bit more about like the fit, right? Like the thing this did more than anything is give them shooters.
Yeah,
Like having someone like D'Angelo Russell, who's like a 38, 39% 3-point shooter, is enormous for them. Having Malik Beasley, who can be a 38, 39% 3-point shooter, is enormous for them. They desperately needed the floor spacing. On top of it today, they add Mo Bamba, who teams don't really guard out there. Like if Mo Bamba is going to shoot, teams are pretty good with that. Like they think that's a good result. It's better, for instance, for Mo Bamba to shoot than LeBron James or Anthony Davis get a shot, right?
yeah,
So he does make 38 to 39% of his threes over the last 2 years, though, even if he doesn't get guarded out there. So it's another potentially interesting floor spacing option. Rui's not really a shooter, obviously, and Jared Vanderbilt's certainly not a shooter. But what Vanderbilt does do, I'm glad you brought up the idea of like being a chess piece defensively. They're going to need that. They're going to need to play him on the ball defensively, I think, quite a bit now. I actually did not like the Mo Bamba for Patrick Beverley move. I think it saved them just like an insane amount of money, if I remember correctly. Like it saved them a lot of money against the luxury tax. But this team does not have any real great like guys in their rotation that are point of attack defenders. Like Max Christie's done a pretty okay job of it this year, but he's just not going to play. I don't think. Like Darvin Ham's not going to play him.
mm-hmm.
Dennis Schroeder can be aggressive and active, I guess, but Dennis isn't good at it. I would say, uh, you know, Austin Reeves, I think, is better as a team defender who is rotating around and, making the right reads on that side of the court, as opposed to like being like an aggressive, disruptive point of attack defender. Then you get to Malik Beasley and D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell is one of the worst players in the NBA at like fighting through screens, to the point where Minnesota basically completely adjusted its defensive scheme, playing him as like a backline, weak side communicator almost, where he was, basically calling out coverages and staying on like the opposing team's worst offensive player in order to hide him, essentially. Anytime he has to get through screens, it does not go well.
Yeah.
He's going to kind of have to do that now, I feel like, don't you?
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what they do. Because I mean, to be fair too, I don't think Pap's defense has been very good this year. Like granted, it's miles better than what you're getting from D'Angelo, but
Right.
I think it's still been like just compared to where even last year, I think it's been a little bit of a fall off. Part of that too has just been how much they've had to ask him to cover guys because they haven't anybody who can do it. So again, like I think that's why they're really going to need to get the most out of Vanderbilt, because I don't know
Yep.
who else is doing it for them necessarily.
Yep.
But yeah,
Vanderbilt's legit going to have to guard like opposing like lead initiators. It feels like a lot of the time for them, and that's going to be interesting for them. Yeah, like Eric
ironically, what's
Stafford.
kind of fun about that is that at least for me, Vando's like breakout game for me. And it was the year before the Wolves made the playoffs. It was the year that they hired Chris Finch midseason. I think it was before he got
Yeah.
hired. Vando had a game where he guarded LeBron, I think almost the entire game. And that was during the bubble year, before the bubble happened, obviously. And that was like the first game where it's like, okay, I think Vando's going to be legit.
Yeah.
And
The one that
yeah.
confirmed it for me last year was it was like in January, Anthony Simons was like hammering them. And Finch just like told Jared Vanderbilt, guard Anthony Simons 70 feet and annoy the shit out of him. And he did. And he just like completely changed the complexion of the game. Eric Stafford in the YouTube comments says, Christie or Dennis was just as effective as Pat Bev at the point of attack. Yeah, but Christie's not going to play is the problem. I don't disagree. Christie's just not going to play. Like, I don't see a world where Darvin Ham plays him. And we'll talk about why my main concern with this Lakers team moving forward is Darvin Ham. But I don't disagree necessarily that Dennis was just as good. He's not effective either. And I guess like Pat Bev wasn't that effective, but he does at least like really fight and scratch in a way that Dennis doesn't necessarily always fight and scratch. Like I can trust him to like really battle. It feels like to fight through screens at like a real level. Let me mention here the Darvin Ham part of this. I think he's been really bad this year. I talked about that, I feel like, on the last episode, and I've talked about it at length, I feel like. Darvin Ham and his lineup construction has been one of the biggest hindrances to the Lakers this season. The lineups that he was playing, it's almost impossible to play this small in today's NBA. Like, I was kind of wondering at first why they didn't just take Mike Conley instead of D'Angelo Russell. The more I thought about it, the more I was sold on Russell for them. I think it was probably the right call for a number of reasons. But the Lakers this season have played over half of their minutes with at least two players that are 6'3" or shorter. They've played 800 minutes with two players 6'1" or shorter on the court. And they've even played 230 minutes with three players that are 6'3" or shorter on the court. That is just like, it's hard to do that. And they have options. Like, you can play Austin Reeves more. You can play Lonnie Walker more. Not to say Lonnie Walker's like much bigger, but he's at least 6'4", stronger, and like has real length at the very least. Like, I don't understand what Darvin Ham is doing, first and foremost. I don't think he's done a very good job in terms of managing his rotations. I really wonder if trading Patrick Beverley, as much as anything, was just taking a club out of the bag for Darvin Ham to not play two 6'1" guys, two lead initiators, quote unquote, at once. Their strategy this year has been horrendous. Their rotational like adjustments throughout the season have been horrendous. That he is the biggest hindrance to this Lakers team being a contender right now. We'll see if that changes. Maybe it's a little bit easier for him now that he has real size that he can go to with Russell, with Beasley, with X, Y, and Z, Jared Vanderbilt, Mo Bamba, etc. Right? I haven't seen enough this year though to make me think otherwise.
Yeah, maybe I'm being too forgiving, but like I have some of the same concerns, but I just think part of it's just been I'm probably less high on what the roster is in terms of the actual versatility throughout it. Like, yeah, Troy Brown's 6'6", but the shots, like, he's still not really getting guarded like a shooter. A lot of it just feels theoretical to me in what the roster actually is, or what it was.
But like he's not going to play Austin Reeves. Like, that's my biggest worry. Like, he has all these like veteran guards and wings now, right? He's just like not going to. I feel like he's not going to play Austin Reeves. And I'm going to lose my mind because Reeves is like one of the only guys on their court that is good on both ends of the floor and can be reliable, like doing two things, offense and defense at once.
Yeah. The him not playing has been kind of weird. I haven't really understood that. I do think it's going to be better. again, maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but I'm not. I definitely don't have quite the same worry level.
Yeah. The last thing about this deal, the reason that this deal I think ultimately makes a lot of sense, and the reason that this number and this overall picture of acquisitions makes sense is that they have so much flexibility now in the summer. They're going to have like actual cap space if they want it. They're going to be able to get to max cap space pretty easily now, or at least like very, very close to max cap space if they want that moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Or because they have all of these guys that have either high cap holds or they have options on deals, basically like Malik Beasley has a $14.5 million team option, I believe. Mo Bamba, I think, has a non-guaranteed year at like $10 million. They also have the flexibility to act as an over-the-cap team this summer, which I think allows them to be able to have a real chance to like maybe build around this core if they decide they want to build around this core, or move on if they want to and start anew entirely. And if they build around this core and act as an over the cap team, they have like $60 million or so to play with while still also having access to the full mid-level exception. Like if you can get D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, Austin Reeves, and one of Mo Bamba or Rui Hachimura under contract for $60 million, your core is actually pretty set then moving forward. Then you can move, at least if this goes well, let's say your core would be set. And then you can also add using the full mid-level. So it's at least the long-term planning here by the Lakers front office is the most foresight that I've seen from the Lakers front office in a while. And that is worth commending, I think, at the very least.
Yeah, they're certainly trying to have foresight, so I can appreciate that.
That's fucking savage. I love it.
Well, I'm not trying to be unfair. I just like we'll see what happens in free agency. I still just like this whole year. Like, congrats on having some things work out now, but I think you could have seen this not working before the year started. So it's been a little bit of like a congrats on digging out of your own shithole. You're back on level playing field.